You ever notice how politicians keep talking about intelligence? National intelligence, political intelligence, strategic intelligence. Look, folks, these people can't even intelligently find the restroom without a lobbyist holding their hand. The idea of apolitical intelligence is one of the greatest myths ever told. Right up there with fair taxes, honest leadership, and your call is very important to us. Because political intelligence isn't about thinking. It's about surviving, smiling, and selling nonsense with a straight face. Real intelligence might solve problems. Political intelligence? It creates problems, then holds a press conference pretending to fix them. Politicians study a public opinion the same way a magician studies mirrors. Not to tell the truth, but to misdirect you. They don't want citizens, they want an audience, and a confused one. A confused citizen is easy to please, easy to distract, and extremely easy to tax. The funniest part, they hire intelligence advisors, people whose job is to make stupid decisions sound smart. They take a disaster and turn it into a difficult but necessary step forward. They take a lie and call it a miscommunication. They take your money and call it investment in the future. Whose future? Whose future? Not yours. Political intelligence is a performance. It's a circus act with better suits. They juggle statistics, swallow promises, and pull excuses out of hats. And when everything falls apart, they blame the other guy. The left blames the right blames the left, and the people in the middle get run over by both. But the biggest trick of all, they convince the public that they're the smartest people in the room. That these geniuses, who require 10 committees, 13 signatures, and a miracle to fix a pothole, are somehow qualified to run an entire country. Political intelligence isn't real. What is real? Political survival. Stay in office, stay on TV, stay funded, stay elected. That's the real intelligence. And the people? They get just enough truth to stay hopeful and just enough confusion to stay quiet. Because if the public ever became actually intelligent, well, then the whole political system would be out of business by breakfast. People hear the phrase apolitical intelligence and immediately imagine something sophisticated, something strategic, maybe even something noble. But that's the magic trick. That's the branding. Well, political intelligence is the kind of phrase invented in a conference room by people who needed a smart-sounding label for decisions that wouldn't survive 5 minutes of honest scrutiny. It's a myth, a costume, a marketing slogan designed to make incompetence look like expertise. When politicians make a mess, they don't clean it up, they repackage it. They take a failure, sprinkle a little of national strategy on top, and suddenly it's not a mistake anymore. It's a calculated risk, it's implementing policy. It's a transitioning objectives. The words become the shield, and the shield becomes the excuse. Political intelligence is never about genuine intelligence, the kind that requires thinking, reasoning, listening, analyzing, or even having a memory longer than a goldfish on medication. Real intelligence solves problems. Political intelligence explains why the problems were necessary. Real intelligence asks questions. Political intelligence avoids them. Real intelligence admits uncertainty. Political intelligence pretends certainty even when the entire room is on fire and the alarms are screaming. The whole thing is a rebranding of chaos into strategy. You have experts, advisors, analysts, speechwriters, all working full-time to wrap confusion in vocabulary. They take a simple lie and fluff it up with enough syllables to make the public too tired to argue. They know that the faster they talk, the slower you think, and that's the point. When things go wrong, they don't say, "Oh, we messed up." They say, "We are currently adjusting our operational framework to better align with our long-term policy objectives." That's political intelligence, explaining nothing while sounding like you've revealed everything. Every time politicians use the term, what they're really doing is defending themselves from accountability. Political intelligence is the shield they hold up whenever someone asks the obvious question. Why did you do that? Instead of honesty, you get performance. Instead of transparency, you get terminology. It's not that they don't know what they're doing, it's that they have to disguise what they're doing. The myth of political intelligence, necessary to protect the real truth, that the system isn't built on insight, it's built on image. The more intelligent they appear, the less people question what's underneath. Politicians survive not through smart decisions, but through smart explanation. A bad policy becomes a strategic measure. A wasteful budget becomes investment. A broken plan becomes a restructuring. The entire language of politics is engineered to make stupidity sound sophisticated. If a politician trips over their own shoelaces, they'll find a way to describe it as a proactive engagement with kinetic gravity. That's political intelligence, the art of turning nonsense into narrative. And the public, exhausted by jargon, begins to believe that all this complexity must mean competence. Because if someone sounds smart long enough, eventually people stop checking if they actually are. That's why the myth works. It doesn't rely on politicians being intelligent, it relies on people being too overwhelmed, too distracted, too busy, or too cynical to notice the difference. When you peel away the language, the myth collapses. Political intelligence isn't the brilliance of leaders, it's the brilliance of packaging. It's the ability to cover a mistake with a metaphor, an excuse with an equation, a failure with a philosophy. It's not about knowing what they're doing, it's about knowing how to describe what they're doing in a way that keeps them in the game. True intelligence is dangerous to the political world because it simplifies. It cuts through. It exposes. So the myth must stay alive, wrapped in phrases, protected by advisors, shielded by speeches. Political intelligence is the greatest myth ever told because it doesn't need to be real. It only needs to be convincing that politicians don't survive because they're smart. They survive because they've mastered the art of manipulation, distraction, and rehearsed intelligence. Real intelligence might make decisions based on logic or ethics, but political intelligence is an entirely different beast. It's not about solving problems, it's about surviving them. It's about showing up, smiling, and selling nonsense with a straight face while the public applauds as if they've just witnessed a miracle. Every press conference, every carefully worded statement, every televised interview is part of the performance. If they admit a mistake, that's career suicide. If they show too much competence, people might start expecting results. So they create a reality where incompetence is acceptable, even stylish, as long as it's packaged correctly. The politicians hire teams of advisors not to provide clarity, but to craft illusion. Analysts, speechwriters, spin doctors, and consultants all work together to turn chaos into choreography. A disastrous policy doesn't stay a disaster. It becomes a forward-thinking initiative or a strategic recalibration. When a law fails or a program collapses, it isn't because of poor judgment. It's because the public wasn't ready to understand the complexity involved. Their survival depends on convincing everyone else that appearances are reality. Political intelligence is less about brains and more about optics, and the better they get at controlling optics, the longer they stay in office. They distract the public with theatrics, scandals, and endless debates over trivialities so no one notices the real issues. Every distraction is calculated. Every scandal is a tool. If the public is busy arguing about who said what or which tweet went viral, they aren't noticing policies being passed, budgets being approved, or mistakes being buried. The politicians know that the longer they keep people distracted, the safer they are. The real skill is in the illusion that they are thinking deeply when, in reality, most decisions are made to protect their careers, not the people. Every public appearance is rehearsed. Every hand gesture, every pause, every smile, every nod is designed to convince people they are intelligent and in control. It doesn't matter if the policies are effective, ethical, or coherent. The performance must appear flawless. A politician can completely fail in action as long as they succeed in perception. And when you combine distraction with rehearsed confidence, suddenly incompetence looks like genius. People begin to accept mediocrity because it's packaged as brilliance, and that's how survival works in politics. Political intelligence isn't real intelligence. It's a survival mechanism. It's a performance, a game, a circus act. It's about protecting yourself from accountability and convincing the public that chaos is part of a carefully planned strategy. The system isn't built to reward actual problem-solving or moral courage. It's built to reward the people who can make failure look intentional and incompetence look sophisticated. And that's why politicians survive. Not because they are the smartest people in the room, but because they are the best at convincing everyone else that they are. The system depends on a confused public, and the more confused the public, the safer the politicians are. True public intelligence is the mortal enemy of political survival. If people started thinking clearly, asking questions, demanding accountability, then the entire myth of political intelligence would collapse overnight. Politicians rely on distraction, jargon, and ritualized ceremonies to keep the public occupied and off balance. They feed you enough facts to seem transparent, but never enough to understand what's actually happening. That way, citizens feel informed while still being powerless. Confusion is their greatest ally. The more the public trusts that things are complicated, the more politicians can hide behind the curtain of expert advice and a strategic planning, even when all they are doing is scrambling to cover up mistakes. Political communication is designed to mislead without ever technically lying. Every word is measured, every sentence crafted to create an illusion of thoughtfulness. A public statement isn't meant to clarify. It's meant to maintain the illusion that someone is thinking, that someone is in control, that someone cares. People accept this because the alternative, admitting that decisions are often made at random or out of fear or for personal gain, is too unsettling. And so the myth of political intelligence persists, reinforced by media, debate, and the endless cycle of elections. The more the public hesitates to question, the longer the politicians can survive and the more elaborate their illusions become. Politicians are experts in deflection. When a problem arises, the finger points everywhere but where it belongs. The left blames the right blames the left, and everyone in the middle just watches, bewildered and frustrated, thinking the system is broken but not realizing the system was designed to be broken. This deflection isn't accidental. It's strategic. Confuse the public, split the opposition, and you survive another term. The real intelligence lies not in solving problems, but in keeping people distracted enough to not notice that the problems are being ignored or worsened. Political intelligence is not about brains, it's about theatrical timing, about knowing when to speak, what to say, and how to make chaos appear intentional. The public is fed illusions of competence while being denied real influence. Policies are sold as necessary, decisions as inevitable, and mistakes as learning experience. Meanwhile, the mechanisms that could hold politicians accountable are slow, ineffective, or captured by the very people they are supposed to regulate. The system thrives on the public's inability to fully grasp its inner workings. A truly intelligent public would dismantle the charade because intelligence demands accountability, transparency, and honesty. Things political survival cannot accommodate. Every debate, every press release, every public statement is engineered to keep the public uncertain, distracted, and compliant. Confusion becomes the currency of power. The more the public is puzzled, the less they question. The less they question, the longer politicians remain in office. Political intelligence is a myth because it doesn't exist as intelligence at all. It exists as survival. It exists as the ability to manipulate perception, maintain illusions, and exploit public confusion. The system works precisely because most people don't know how it works. And that's why it will keep working until the public becomes too intelligent to let it. So here's the truth, plain and simple. Political intelligence isn't about brains inside or solving problems. It's about survival, performance, and keeping the public just confused enough to keep playing along. The politicians don't need to be smart. They just need to be convincing. They don't need to fix things. They just need to explain them in a way that makes it look like they did. And the system keeps running because people believe the myth, because they're dazzled by the language, distracted by the spectacle, and too tired to notice that the emperor has no clothes. The greatest intelligence in politics isn't in the leaders, it's in the illusion. And the funniest part? The public is both the audience and the punchline.